Electrocast.
Hey, Fidelity. How can I remember to invest every month?
With the Fidelity app, you can choose a schedule and set up recurring investments in stocks and ETFs.
Oh, that sounds easier than I thought.
You got this.
Yeah, I do. Now, where did I put my keys?
You will find them where you left them.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. After watching this season of the HBO's original series, The White Lotus, this is the tropical getaway I needed. One more pina colada, please.
Hey, you're not on mute.
Oh, I thought I was in paradise. Turns out it was my Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate Pina Colada and Thai-iced coffee-flavored creamers. Inspired by the newest season of HBO's original series, The White Lotus. For the love of coffee. Try now.
There's a change happening in the way we live, the way we work, the way we spend our money and make our decisions. We are evolving to be more conscious in our actions in a way that serves the world and makes it a better place. Welcome to the Ethical Evolution. The Ethical Evolution podcast is brought to you by Ethical Change Agency. I'm Bindi, I'm the founder, and my mission is to help ethical entrepreneurs and holistic healers to find their voice through spiritual coaching and podcasting. I'm honoured to bring you the stories of those who create change through healing, kindness, innovation, purpose, and spirit. Understanding that to create collective change, we need to be the change. It all begins with us. Hey, before we get into this episode, I just wanted to let you know that you can now grab my album of guided meditations. It's called Sourced by Spirit, and it's on all streaming platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Tidal, YouTube Music, and many more. There's 11 guided meditations ranging from 4 minutes through to 10 minutes to help you reset your mind and your body at any time. Okay, now let's get on with the show. Katische Haberfield channels Archangel Zadkiel and is a certified clinical hypnotherapist, past life regression therapist, medium, ghost rescue medium, author, poet, and student of understanding the soul. She developed the happiest moments of my soul after a discussion with Archangel Zadkiel, who instructed her that finding small moments of happiness was imperative for human beings at this time in our development. Join me as my fellow Brisbane-dweller takes us on a journey of past lives and spiritual connection. Welcome, Katische, to the Ethical Evolution.
Thanks for having me, Bindi. It's lovely to speak to... Oh, I can't speak. Lovely to speak to another fellow Aussie. That's how excited I am because I can't even get my words out. They're going backwards.
Yes. It is blowing our minds that we're actually speaking to someone in Brisbane at the moment. We're both in the same locale, basically, and less than 30 minutes from each other. So it's a bit of a mind trip for both of us. But this has been literally, for me, 2 years in the making. You're right around the corner. And someone on the other side of the world recommended I speak to you, and here we are. So this is incredible. Now, Katische, for those people who don't know who you are and what you do, can you go ahead and tell us?
Okay, so I'm a past life regression therapist. I'm an author, a medium, a poet, a ghost rescue medium, and about 1 billion other hats. It just depends upon what channeler of the Archangel Zadkiel, spirit releasement therapist. Depends what they need me to do today or tomorrow or next week. So very frustrating to try and pin down what I do into one sentence. But when you're wanting to share a message on a podcast, they ask you to make it specific. And so I just chose one aspect. And one of the things I've been asked to talk about is the work that I've been doing with Archangel Zadkiel. And so that sort of connects us back to your previous guest, because she was the first person who ever told me about my connection with the archangels.
These podcasts, I tell you what, they're powerful, and they bring us all together, whether we're around the corner or on the other side of the world, and I love that. But I'm always curious when I'm talking to someone who channels messages or spirit, whatever it might be. I myself do the same thing. Is when you're talking to me, are you getting the messages right now?
No, because I haven't set an intention.
Mm-hmm.
So I have learnt the very hard way to set boundaries about opening and closing doors in terms of talking with spirit. So the only time that I would get a message come through is I have a very bossy personality, which is a different avatar. So this, I call him a Mr. Bossy, Mr. Wisdom. He's a character who's actually on my podcast because I do some of my own sessions as well, who resides in a totally different system, a different dimension, different planet. And he's a lion being. And he is a lecturer on how to be human. So he lectures non-human beings, spiritual beings, on humanness. And when they're ready to come in, because there's a huge queue of people coming, not people, beings wanting to come into Earth, they attend sessions, and the me in that existence is a lion who's like a lecturer, and he interrupts sometimes to give me wisdom, which I've only just really recently realised is my super bossy. So sometimes I will butt in and say something to someone and be really insistent about a spiritual wisdom thing. And sometimes it can I can feel like, what am I doing? Why can I just, and I only just learned that that's him going, like beep, 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 information incoming, and they don't have a choice and we need to tell them this now. But no, otherwise it's fairly distinct and separate. They'll come in and talk to me all the time, but not specifically anybody else or on a podcast or anything like that. That's specific intention or invitation, so to speak. They like to be invited because unless there's a soul contract or something, then they'll give me an insight. So it's otherwise I'd have too many people wanting to talk to me.
I quite often get like a direction on where I should go with like conversations like this, because I sit down with you, I don't do any preparation. So I'm completely going with the flow, and so quite often I'll be like it's almost like I get these threads, and it's kind of like, you need to go down this one, or no, don't go down this one. And it's kind of like last night I had the same kind of thing, and after I'd finished speaking to the person, I was like, I really wanted to go down this avenue, but I didn't because of these reasons. And so those kind of things happen for me right when I'm talking to people like this. And, even in everyday life, like just random things will pop up. But like you, I've learnt to, I guess, have boundaries around that as well. I used to get it when I used to go past Toowong Cemetery.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I used to get messages there all the time, and I was like, what is going on here? For those people listening from overseas, it's a local cemetery here that I used to drive past all the time, and I'd be like, what's going on here? Now we know. So
do you do ghost rescue work?
No, I do not. No.
Okay, yeah. Okay, see, I've spent a lot of time at Toowong Cemetery crossing over ghosts. So they were probably trying to say, hey, I'm here, and get you a message, because it took me a very long time of going to that cemetery. First, I used to go there and just take photos and be overwhelmed with grief. And then I was always like, no, I hate ghost hunters. I'd never want to do a nighttime tour. And it was only, again, through Megan, my first time that I started doing a lot of ghost rescue work, I was sent to the Balmoral Cemetery. And basically I'd heard a radio segment on B105, and this is one of our local radio stations, and a lady had said that her son and daughter used to speak to a ghost, as a little boy ghost. And I was like, that cemetery's down the road from me. And so I went there, and I was like, I don't know, can I really do this?
Ever met a foundation that does it all? Say hi to NARS Light Reflecting Foundation. Makeup meets skincare in a bottle. It evens skin tone, blurs imperfections, and has a natural radiant finish. Plus, it's formulated with skincare ingredients to help strengthen your skin's barrier. With a newly expanded shade range of over 40 radiant shades to choose from and buildable all-day wear, NARS Light Reflecting Foundation. Find your perfect match.
And when I went there, literally, and I took videos of it, it's on my website, and it was on that B105 website, the angels all came with me. All the clouds just went into this massive formation shapes of angels. And then they took me down to, because I can't see them unless I see them in my third eye. I only see them in my third eye if there's a past life connection. And so I went down there and I'm like, this feels like it's the right spot. And then I was like, no, hang on, one more over. And there was like two little boys there. And then I went forward and I felt him jump on my back. And so he jumped on me like a backpack. And then there was this like big vortex in the air and I started crying and he went up in the light. And then I took a photo, and the photos, the clouds changed into the formation of a mum holding her baby. And then I sort of walked back up and a whole bunch of other things happened. And from that moment on, I've been like officially on the team of Ghost Rescue in Brisbane and all over the world. And I said to Megan, I think I'm supposed to write a book about this, but I don't know if what I did was really true, right? And so I hired her as a medium to bring through, and I said, let's see if you can bring through some of these ghosts who I crossed over so they can confirm it and they can tell their story. And so we did a whole season of my podcast of her being a medium, bringing through the ghosts that I had crossed over, and they all confirmed. And then in the one where Megan brought through the little boy Harry, who I have a photo of him now because I've been in communication with his extended family. Harry became a spirit guide to me. And so he would send me, you've got to go here, there and everywhere and cross ghosts over. And they were all babies to start with. And then in that mediumship interview that's on my podcast with Megan started laughing. I'm like, what is it? And she goes, Harry said, thank you for rescuing me again.
What?
I said, what do you mean again? And she said, you know Harry from a past lifetime and you rescued him in a past life.
Really?
I was like, you're joking. What do you mean by rescue? And he just said, go figure it out. So there's another episode of my podcast where I hire somebody else, Cindy, to take me, she does it via the Akashic Records, into the past life where I met Harry.
Wow.
And in that lifetime I did rescue Harry, but he wasn't a ghost. He was a human being. He was a little boy. And we lived in India together.
Oh, my God. That is incredible. So the story that you can listen to is about me rescuing Harry, and I was a Brahmin at that time. And it's been really interesting because I've travelled to Nepal and all around the world, but I've always been really not wanting to visit India. Nothing against Indian people, very beautiful people. My parents have always lived next door to Indians. When I went to high school and student exchange, I was billeted with an Indian family, but I always refused to go to India. And when we did this past lifetime, I understand why, because of the trauma that was still in my body from trying to rescue this boy and what had happened to him, and then how that reflected upon my life in that lifetime, because it made major changes in my lifetime. And what I learned through that is the connections that we have through people, the people that we meet on podcasts and the people that come on as guests and my clients, it's all interconnected. So every single person that I've had on my podcast so far, I've had a past life with. Get out of town. Just out of interest.
Including Megan.
Get out. How many episodes have you done?
I've done 137, but I think 60% of those are past life sessions. Wow. 17% are interviews. The rest are pretty much mediumship sessions, like the ones with Megan, Ghost Rescue, or, there's a few bits. Oh, the channeling Zadkiel sessions. Yeah. So it's like I started, things just come to you for a reason. And if you don't run into somebody in your physical life, like I could run into you in a shopping centre somewhere, who knows? But I didn't. So Megan was brought in to introduce us, and it took us 2 years for that to happen, but here we are.
Yeah. It was meant to be because you kept coming back around. That is absolutely fascinating. Now, I've had guests on this show that I've done past regression work with. I've done like full-blown sessions, which were mind-blowing. But also the most recent one, guest name was Corby Metfield from the States. She, I said to her, like when you go to a place, like you were just talking about India. And in 2022, I went to LA and I was like, I felt like I'd been there before. Like I hadn't physically in this life. But it was like I knew every back street. I felt like I was home. I now just everything felt familiar. And she goes, that's because you're a Hollywood director in the 1930s in Hollywood.
That's interesting. I'm not going to tell you why publicly, but that's interesting, yes.
And she said, and you drank yourself to death. In this life, I'm actually working with a Hollywood media company right now, working on podcasts and records. So it's a whole different stream, but it's like, oh my God. Like it really resonated with me. I was like, I feel that like to my core.
Yeah.
And it was very different to the other past regression work that I'd done where like we went right back to like, I think one of the lives I was seaweed or something like that. It was like insane.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Another one I was a bird. Another one I was a Greek slave and watched myself get murdered. It was just insane. This stuff, like, it helps you understand this life and where you're at and why you react to things the way you do, where your trauma sits, what you're holding physically, all of those kind of things, and how you can heal yourself in this life to, like, break patterns. In the work that you do you see this with people as well?
Yeah, absolutely, because I work with so many aspects of it. So I work with this lifetime. So I do hypnotherapy with regression to present life. So to check out if there's anything that's holding you back from earlier in lifetime. And then we take it back to past lives, lifetimes on other planets, other dimensions. And then I do the spirit releasement therapy. So to see if you've got any ghosts attached to you, any negative entities, if there's any demons affecting your lifetime, and if you have devices, implants of any sort. And generally speaking, that sort of encompasses, I do the between lives as well. And so, technically you're supposed to do them all in separate sessions in different modalities for therapeutic reasons, for insurance purpose reasons. But what I find is they're all interrelated. And usually, for example, if I have clients who come today, they might come back in a year's time or 2 years' time, not because the thing that they came to before wasn't healed, but that layer is done. And so there might be another aspect because we make decisions and choices in every moment. And so they had that thing looked at, they healed that emotion or removed whatever that was, got clarity, understood a limiting belief, and then they decided to make a decision which took them that way instead of that way. And so now this thing here has gone, okay, so you're doing 80% of what you want to do here, but there's something holding you back. Let's have a look at that. So it's just fascinating because it's not like the people that come to me for sessions, they don't see it necessarily as, well, they don't see it as there's something wrong with me. They see it as it's an adventure. I want to understand myself better. I want to understand why I'm making the decisions I'm making. I want to understand why I find things repulsive or disgusting or fascinating, or why I feel jealous about this sort of thing. And why might there be something that is, romance is a really good one. Why do I keep thinking about that bloke from primary school? Or why do I keep wondering what happened to that fellow from my student exchange or whatever? And how come, things didn't work out the way they did? And do I have a soul contract with this person? Is that why they keep coming up? You know, I've done all the forgiveness works, I've healed all the regrets, but they're still there. Is that because we've made some kind of a decision together up there, and now I have to wait for them to do their work, and then we'll do the next phase? Or, you know, it's really quite fascinating like that in terms of understanding. And mostly, I mean, I've done, I don't know, I've got 8 of my own on the podcast, but I've done over 20, 25, 30 sessions, formal sessions, and then now I can also do them in the moment. Even through writing poetry, I can access past lives, and also like you, from going to places like the Tower of London. I walked in there in the year, what was that? I don't even remember when I went for the first, 95, at the end of uni. And we went on a holiday. A friend and I went backpacking, and I walked into the Tower of London, and I saw the rack, and I went, been here. Don't like it, done that. And it took me until I started the podcast and I did my first official session with a friend helping me, that I went to my first lifetime that was involved in the Tower of London. And then I went to a second lifetime that was down the road from the Tower of London, actually in Westminster Abbey.
Wow.
As a monk.
That's incredible.
And I was like, well, there you go. That's deja vu, and that's interesting. And that took me a very long time to be ready to heal that.
You just reminded me. I went to Tasmania some years back, and there's an old convicts women's prison in Richmond, and I walked into one of those cells, and I just I got this deathly cold on me, and I just went, I got to get out of here. And I was just like, something's happened in here, and I was out. But it was like something like inexplainable happened in that space, and I was out. Yeah. So would you describe yourself as being empathic as well? Oh, yeah.
Very sensitive. Yeah. So what you can sense and I did the same. I was in Alcatraz, and I was like, oh, don't like this. And what you can sense is 2 things. If it's cold, you can sense the ghost that's in there, right? So they're still there, you know. But also, depending upon how finely tuned your senses are, you can then sense the trauma. So the negative thought forms, you know, when somebody is tortured in a cell like that, they actually create totally different entities based out of the thought form and the pain and the trauma that need to be reintegrated with the soul. And then you can also sense any of the red hats, the, you know, negative entities, the hell beings, all of those. You can sense those because jails have so much trauma in there. There's, you know, not only the regret of the people that have committed the acts, there's the trauma they receive from the prison guards, and the interactions with the cellmates, which are never nice. And there's just so much thought form energy and negative entity and energy, plus their own stuff, stuff that you're walking into a melting pot of emotions. And that's why so many jails still have energy of some form there, whether it's, you know, the actual person that hasn't gone to the life, or it's some remnant of their energy that needs to be reintegrated into their soul. So, yeah, that's, you know, there could have been multiple things that you were feeling there. Yeah, it was like nothing I've ever felt before, and it was like very palpable. I was just like, oh, nah, I'm out. Now, I'm curious, how did you get into this stuff? Like, where did it all start? So officially it started in COVID, the COVID years, because we were all at home and I was attracted to a practitioner online, and I did some courses and I did training in sound therapy. So I got myself some crystal singing bowls and did a course online via the UK, started doing what I call shamanic sessions. And I could take people in and do soul retrievals without even really having done a lot of work officially. And I said to a friend, I think I can take them into past lives immediately through the sound. And they were like, yeah, you can. And I'm like, all right. And that's how the podcast began, because I was like, well, I want to go and train and do this, but I also want to showcase my journey. So that's officially, I mean, previously, prior to that, the other first inkling that led up to it was when my marriage broke down in, what was it? So I went through, a friend got locked in syndrome, so she had a bike accident and could only blink, totally paralysed. Then my dad died of prostate cancer, and I went through a divorce at the same time. And when I lived I lived on the Sunshine Coast, and there's a Buddhist monastery not far, Shenrezig. And so I used to spend my time up in Shenrezig trying to learn how to heal and do mindfulness and meditation and all sorts of stuff. And we did a Buddha medicine puja one day because the Rinpoche was unwell. And so we were all sitting in there, and I get a lot of messages through my head. So I come up in welts sometimes when there's issues that need to come through. And I was sitting there doing this Buddha medicine puja, and I couldn't read the words because they give you all the sheets of paper. And I just suddenly started rocking up and down, and I just could not stop crying. And I thought I might pass out. I was in that much emotional pain. And all the nuns are just looking straight ahead. And at the end of it, they came over and they said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No." They said, "Tell us about it." And I said, well, the only words I wanted to say is, and all I could think of during that whole time is, "Oh, Mother, I am suffering." And they said, "Yeah, because you've had a past life with the Geshe and he's your mum." And I was like, oh, because wasn't really my radar back then. And I'm like, right, so what do you do about that? And they said, well, make sure you come and spend some more time around him. The energy be really good. Of course, I never went back. Oh. It was just like I had two small kids, and every time the Geshe happened to be on, I wasn't able to get to his sessions because, two small kids and everything, going through a divorce. And, yeah, so my first episode on my podcast was, okay, I had this weird experience and here's my story. Let me just see what happens from here on. But if you go back even further, the work that I've done, basically it started from birth with a choice to do an incarnation, a dual incarnation, which I've actually covered this week on my podcast, because basically when I came in, a version of me who was an alchemist, who also lived near the Tower of London, he had not crossed over. And so he came in at the same time as me, because your energy knows each other.
Yep.
And we went into the womb at the same time. Wow. And so it took me until I got really sick of people saying, "You're a bit dark. You're a bit of an Eeyore. Why are you always so pessimistic?" And I'm like, but I'm not. I'm happy, loving. I like fairies and I like pretty things and teacups and, I'm a good brownie. And they're like, no. And I went on to, I can't remember it. There was this app that you could go onto that was just audio only, that was around in 2000. And I went into this room that had these live rooms. Can't remember what it's called now. And I just literally went in. I'm going to go and listen to this talk that she's giving. As soon as I came into the room, because it just sees, the icon, the lady said, "Whoever has entered the room, you are not welcome in here. This is my domain."
Whoa.
And I was like, wow, okay, I'll leave. And so then I went and spoke to a friend who was in California, and she was a spirit, very, very beautiful, huge. Like, she's the kind of person where you take a photo and she's got this massive golden aura that you see in photos. And she said to me, I'm going to try. I don't do exorcism, but I'm going to try and remove this person from you. And we did that, and it wasn't successful. She tried her way, and then I had another practitioner try and do it as well. And that was wonderful, but it was horrendous, and took me months to recover from that. But it sort of explained a lot about my childhood when I got through it, and I could understand why I had certain sort of gifts that my family didn't have. There's nobody who was a medium or interested in spirituality or even religion in my family. And it was when I investigated this further, the alchemist sort of explained his side of the story, because I was obsessed with finding out, how can I be a baddie? Why would they see such dark energy? And then, about a year later or so, I went and did another session. And in this other session, I found that I had been a little pygmy boy in another lifetime. And, this is sounding a lot about me, but, there was this witch doctor, and the witch doctor sent this bolt of lightning that hit my third eye, and along with it went a whole bunch of negative entities who were there designed to block my clairvoyance. And it wasn't until I understood the alchemist's story and what he was trying to achieve in his lifetime, and I could see the good in him and understand that his decisions were influenced by somebody else, that I learned to see how we can see ourselves as both negative and positive. You just have to understand what the intent was, and that he had harbored rage because he was fed to the lions.
Wow. No wonder.
So, really kind of a crazy background. So I don't have an easy byline that says, in 2000, my third eye awakened because I used a singing bowl. Well, I did, but, there's a million backstories that I've opened by being brave enough to, come on podcasts, because a lot of the time when I come on podcasts, a new thing opens, a new insight, a new level of fear is unlocked, a new level of bravery, a new connection is unlocked. But then also by showcasing other people's lives, I help people understand that it's okay to be interested in this sort of stuff. And then when I put my own on there, I'm screaming in some and crying and laughing and whatever, and it's bloody embarrassing. But it's like, if I don't do this, how can we normalize the fact that we are both light and dark? And in different incarnations, we take different roles, but we are also always both light and dark because we live in duality, which means there is good and bad depending upon the perspective that you have. So, yes, this time and this action, you might perceive me as being a real nasty person. But if we look at it from my perspective, maybe I was. Maybe I was here to learn to be a robber, Maybe I decided I wanted the soul growth to learn greed and envy and hoarding and all sorts of lessons. And then maybe the next time I come back and I say, right, well, now I'm going to be puritanical and I'm going to bake everything from scratch and I'm going to grow everything just from scratch and I'm going to be super religious and I'm going to give away all my wealth because I feel bad about that lifetime, but also have fun. I've done both. So the whole thing's a bit strange and complicated and weird, but geez, it's fascinating.
It's incredible. And can I just say, Katische, I'm like the energy I'm feeling cycling through here is like, it's quite, I don't know whether you're feeling that, but I'm getting the energy that's coming through and it's quite powerful. And, for people who are listening, they probably can't pick it up, but I'm definitely picking it up. And I know we're not that far away from each other, but I don't think that really matters. But I'm feeling it. And it's also interesting that you talked about the duality and the light and the dark. And I'm going to give a shameless plug here because I have an album coming out next month and it's all about coming out of the darkness and into the light, and it's called Luminescent, coming out January 17. But it's just so funny that we're having this conversation. It's all about that. And the music is all about that too, which is sound, energy, vibration.
Yeah. And music is such a powerful healer, really powerful healer. Yeah. And you can just listen to music and gain greater insights into yourself. I mean, that's why everybody loves music, isn't it? Because you can use it to relax. You can use it to change your vibe in terms of get motivated to go out. You can use music with different theta waves for focus, relaxation, breakthroughs, and insights. And then you can just use music to just, send love songs and a mixtape to somebody. Do you know what I mean? And depending upon that person, you'll get a different insight, we all look back at songs and words from the 70s and go, is that what they were saying? And you had a different interpretation as a 7-year-old to a 49-year-old. You're like, oh, geez, I didn't realize what I was singing about there. Yeah. But that's also a different perspective, and that's how music is like, at essence, everything is energy, and energy and sound are all together. And it's the sound waves that carry the meaning and the light, and words are just sound encoded. And so when you listen to music, you are gaining healing just through the musical transmission, because it's pure energy. It doesn't matter whether or not the person sings. The singing and the musics are a different level of, like, it's a stack of levels. I mean, as you know, it's like, first is your intention. What am I going to create an album about? Second is, how do I do it? Is it just spoken? Is it spoken word? Am I using light language? Am I using, any form of ancient channeling or codes? Am I going to put in each musical instrument? And each musical instrument has a different healing property. And then overall we mix it together and we bake a cake. And depending upon who you are and what you're going through in your life, you'll get the piece of that cake or the slice of that cake that you're ready for. And you can come back 3 years later and listen to that same song and get a totally different effect. So that's why music is so powerful.
Which kind of gives me a bit of a segue into, you are delving a lot more lately into the happiness of the soul, which, you ask people, what makes your soul happy? For me, it's music. I think that's like my number one, and also doing exactly what we're doing right now. That's the other stuff that jazzes me up. If you were to ask yourself that same question, what would it be?
Yeah, so I did ask myself, and I did 2 sessions so I could see, and it was really quite weird. It was really quite interesting. So, and you laugh at this, the first thing that we went to was on a spaceship. Okay, and I saw myself putting my feet over the edge, and I had black boots on. And I was like in an astronaut suit, and I went down through the clouds into a planet, and I had my robot rover dog with me. And this is a task-based life that exists there now. And we were going to find, I knew from my report, because I had a checklist, that I had to find this sentient being who looked like an astronaut, but there's no bones in behind him. He was just energy, and he was holding a baby. And I had to find out why this sentient robot was on the planet holding a baby, because the orders for that planet to evacuate had executed. All the ships had left. The planet was in the process of destructing, so all of the gases and everything, so that the beautiful being who's in the middle, like our mother Gaia, could leave safely. And there's this sentient being there holding a baby. And we went through the whole scenario to find out what went wrong. And Cindy, who was doing the session for me, said, so I'm a bit confused. How is this the happiest moment of the soul? And so my team of collective avatars of who I've been said, well, like, she likes babies, so we showed you a baby. There was a baby in that scene. Did you not get that? And then don't you think about this too hard, but she likes to rescue ghosts in this lifetime. And so we just showed her rescuing a robot and a baby on a planet that is being in the process of disintegrating. And they showed me how there are teams of people who are involved in checking that every planet has every form of sentience removed before it's destroyed. And so there is a version of me that works with teams to ensure that in every planet, in every dimension, every location. And they're like, so can you see why you sort of got into this in this lifetime? And I was like, and that's why it's like, it's compelling. I didn't know it made me happy, but apparently it does. And I keep getting drawn back to it. And the reason that they asked me to do the happiest moments of the soul was because I was getting too emotional writing my ghost book. And they said, you need a break. And the only way we can force you to have a break is we're going to command you to do something different. And the reason we're going to command you to do something different is because right around in the world, you are getting distressed because there are tidal waves, there are earthquakes, there are wars and disasters. And your brain is going, I can't be everywhere. And at the same time, you're loving auroras. And we want to teach you some of the things that you already know. And one of them is to focus on the small things. And we want you to show people that sometimes the things that they think are making them happy are, sometimes they're not, but sometimes there's a deeper meaning to the things that they think are making them happy, but they can't quite understand why. And so I understood really weird things like why there's a certain part of my personality that likes checklists and procedures and spreadsheets, which is this to do with this guy who checks off lists. There's a part of me that understood why I got really emotional. I used to be a university lecturer. Why I was really emotional that I didn't stay in university lecturing. And then because, well, you're this blind dude who goes and teaches non-human beings how to be human beings. And then why do I always cry around babies? Why do I love babies? Like, why do they bring me joy? Because you like baby everything. And then they're like, so when you do a really hard incarnation, we send you a baby cat, a baby dog, a baby, or whatever it is. You know, you like baby anything, baby planets. And so we want to show you that sometimes it's the unexpected things that bring you happiness, but sometimes it's the really complicated things that make you happy. And you're a really complicated person this time round. So we're trying our hardest to make you happy, but geez, you chose a lot of things to do. Could you just calm down for a bit and just enjoy it and try doing something different so that we can rest your brain so you don't blow up trying to bloody, find every bloody ghost on earth.
Oh, my God. My cheeks hurt from smiling so much. That was hilarious. Wow. Oh, and it all makes sense, though. Like, when you understand those connections, it just makes total sense. And you're like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. Like, why do we do the things we do? Why do we like the things we like? Why do we behave the way we do? It's all got a deeper meaning and it's hidden somewhere that you can't see. And
yep, that's right.
When you can connect with that, it's just like, well, yeah, duh, as you said.
Yep.
Now, tell me more.
Sorry?
Tell me more about the angels, because this stuff fascinates me. I've had several guests on the show as well who've talked about, angels appearing for them, like physically appearing for them in certain moments, and like they've left physical, signs for them on where they should go. What happens for you? I mean, you described that one with the little boy, Harry, but what happens for you when they appear?
Okay, so the most powerful way that they've appeared to me is actually just, it's hard to explain, but when you go to sleep and just before you wake up, you're not in your body. You've actually left and gone somewhere on an adventure for the evening. You're just the shell. And I have had it several moments where I've literally heard, felt as I've re-entered. And then right in the third eye, there will be the brightest of bright, either blue or gold. And it's the angels, but in a symbolism, and you cannot move. It's like paralyzing, like it's just like they've taken over my in here. And I can't move because they're doing something. And that was like, okay, yep, all right. And as I said, I really didn't know until I had somebody else confirm it. And because my podcast guests mainly confirmed it, because like they would be in the between lives. So I can't say life between life because that's trademarked. Between lives where their spirit guides would come in, and Archangel Michael kept coming in and in again. And Archangel Michael, like I had one client, Miles, and he would say, oh, by the way, Archangel Michael's just tipped his hat and said, well done. And I'm like, is he being sarcastic? And he's like, yeah. And I see Archangel Michael as a personality, and I see him as a man. man in a suit with tails and a top hat. And he's always sarcastic to me. And I know that's not the way other people see him, but he banters to me like I'm a brother. Other angels, I don't get that same sort of thing. It's a much more reverent sort of a thing. But Archangel Michael, he will play jokes. He'll be sarcastic. He'll tell people some funny things. And sometimes I don't understand them. I don't, so for example, don't see them in the flesh like, say, Lorna does, who's a famous medium who sees angels in Ireland. For me, it's an energy that I can feel beside me. I guess the most real one would be I was driving to the sunny coast and I was driving on the left-hand lane, so going towards Caloundra, and there was a B-double driving beside me. Now, the B-double didn't have any of the trailers on. It just had the, where the, I was going to say caboose, wrong word. It just had the planks where there should be two cabs. Yeah, that's it. And he started to come up the right-hand lane beside me and then started to move in. And I thought, I'm going to die, because he had not judged the distance between, he'd forgotten about the fact that he didn't have cabs on and just, it was just him. And he just pulled in. And I held on for dear life, trying not to get, like the car was moving off the road at 120 kilometres an hour. And suddenly I felt this force that just came in and pushed the semi-trailer away, the B-double away. And he then moved in front properly, and this car drove up beside me, and she was just like...
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And the second occasion was when I was driving out to have coffee with some friends out at Pullen Vale. And my friend has a coffee shop there. And on the way back, I was in 3 lanes of traffic. There was no one either side of me, so I was in the middle lane. And I was stopped at the lights and had hands-free, but I was talking to a friend who she'd just rung, and I'd done a hands-free. And the bus came screaming down the hill, didn't put its brakes on. It could have moved either left or right, but it just went wham into the back of my car. And it should have broke a lot. It should have hurt me. I should have gone flying through the windscreen or whatever. But it was like the bus just cracked. We went up the windscreen, and then I was just stunned. And all these old ladies came piling out of the bus, and they were like, that was his fault. He did not even slow down. He did not even hit the brakes. And I thought, my car's going to be written off, like it would have been warped. But this bus full of passengers made only the slightest of impact on my car, despite the full force of the bus hitting me. And I knew, it took me a while because I was just so shaken, but I knew a couple of days later that Michael was there in the middle. Wow. And so for me, now that I've learnt to communicate with them on an hourly, daily basis, they're around. But prior to that, they were there to say, not now. Not time to die now. You've still got stuff to do.
I used to host another podcast actually with a psychic, and he told me a story. We got very deep into this story one day of a friend of his who was in hospital, and they saw, I don't know whether it was Archangel Michael or another one, appear at the end of the bed. And it was like the true traditional angel with the wings, the whole 9 yards, and left feathers behind the whole thing. When we finished that podcast and he left, there was a white feather on my front doorstep.
Oh, yeah. They're amazing.
And I was just like, what the? And he said, I'm always getting white feathers left behind. And I was like, okay. So, like, this is the stuff that happens, It's just incredible.
Yeah, so I've only had a white feather once. So for me, it's not that way. But, yeah, they appear however it helps you understand that they're there in whatever form. So if you want them to look like a ballerina, they'll look like a ballerina. And if they want to leave you signs that are important to you, then they will leave the signs that are going to help you believe, not anybody else. So it'll be things that are significant to you. And they can be also significant to other people, but it will be the thing that goes, okay, I'm starting to believe now, or that seems valid to me. And it depends, how much evidence you wanted. So for me, they've been like, okay, you're an evidence-based person, but you also believe. So we're going to put all these clues in everything that you do until you realize that it's part of what you're here for. And until you can bridge that barrier of fear to say, not only can I have, say, Archangel Michael as spirit guide, because the first person I connected to was Buddha Shakyamuni. I woke up crying for him. Then I connected to Jesus, and Jesus does appear in the house.
Wow.
He's got a very special position in the stairs, and even the cat sees. My cat can see spirits. But for me, it was, I then had to lose that safety net of Archangel Michael, which is, I was like crying my eyes out. No, God. He's like, settle down. Got somebody else to introduce you. And Archangel Zadkiel came in, and I'm like, who's he? I don't even know him. Is he not one of the big dudes? And he's like, oh, he's the archangel in training, and, well, not really, but, he's like my best mate. And then they're like, we want you to channel him. And I'm like, are you joking me? Like, it's hard enough to believe about Archangel Michael, but you want me to turn the camera on and believe that I can speak the words? And so the first time that I did that, I was like, how am I going to know? And then as I'm saying the stuff, he just whipped out stuff that was really deeply personal. And to the point that I was like, are you serious? Like, are we really saying that live? And I guess one of the funny things was, like, he decided to teach about animals for a while. I think it was like a safe, easy topic for me. And he decided to do an episode on the lessons of my two dogs. And I knew that it was impartial and there's no way I could make it up when he started to tell me about how, from his perspective, if he was my ex-husband, he'd also be partly on his side too, because I was bloody nasty to him as he was nasty to me. And I was like, well, I wouldn't have said that myself. So, yeah, little stuff like that where you're like, and like they explained the significance and, I was caught up with my dog and the illness and how the dog died when he was with my ex-husband. And he's like, you don't understand that dog came in to help you heal. And then specifically he had a soul contract with your ex-husband. And so before he could die, he had to finish that off to help your ex-husband heal. And he's remarried and everything now. So it's like, oh, poor doggy, but you did your job well. Like, he got remarried, so well done. Me, not so much. Maybe in the future, I'm too busy with the angels. Yeah. But yeah, like it's when they tell you stuff and, you're under lights, camera, action, and you're like, yeah, I could not have even had an agenda to say that, because that was something so revealing that I wouldn't have wanted to say it, but you've showed it to me in a way that I've actually learned something at the same time. So, I've even cried in channeling because they've used myself as an example. And I'm like, why are you doing this to me? And they're like, well, you put a camera on your clients and put it on a podcast with their permission. So come on, fair's fair.
Cheeky, aren't
they? They're very cheeky. Yeah, they're very cheeky. Well, and also that's because I have a very serious personality, and like my storefront is very serious, but I'm also very cheeky and sarcastic and, all of those. I like to have fun, but I also have structure and procedures, and you have to do things right, and there's serious implications, and there's limiting beliefs, and there's bloody ghosts and, red hats, and we've got to deal with that. But they're like, rightio, downtime, let's have some fun. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. take the serious hat off for a minute, and I'll just be that inner child who likes to be curious and find out interesting things. And rightio, let's go on an adventure. And I'm a little bit scared, but you're by my side, so it'll be all right, mate.
Now, Katish, I am absolutely fascinated when I talk to people who can read energy or who can heal or who have medium capacity or can channel in any way. And I fully appreciate how taxing it can be on us as physical humans. But I also do like to be cheeky and ask whether you have any capacity to read energy for us tonight or to share a message with us that you find. I keep getting feedback and I feel like it's another being in here.
Okay.
That
what are they saying?
I don't know. It's just whispers. But
whispers. Okay.
Anything that
would you like
to
me
share?
to tap into the whispers for you?
Oh, please go ahead.
Okay, that should be fun. So I'll just explain it while I'm doing it.
I'm getting very sweaty at the moment, by the way, as well.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, very hot. So I wait for the heart-based energy to go first. So I've got to allow my heart chakra to open up so that I can know that there we go, that the information coming through is pure and intended well. And I look over here because that's when I focus, and then I divide my mind into 4 quadrants. And so I say upstairs on my left-hand side is soul family or spirit family for you. Downstairs left-hand side is spirit animals. Right-hand side, bottom lower quadrant for me is somebody who hasn't passed, be it an animal or a loved one. Right upstairs quadrant is the archangels. And then where it can be confusing is if it's a past life connection, because I bring through past lives as well. And then I say masculine and feminine. So for me, masculine, feminine. And the first thing I got was he. He says, he's sorry that he couldn't come through sooner. He was waiting for the right time. He'd like to let you know the impact you had on his life and that he wishes that he'd known you longer. I'm getting a sense of sadness, like there was meant to be more done together in this lifetime, but that he made a choice that he could say he's in the light, but he would say, if he was a human, he would say he does regret, but he doesn't regret it now because he's seen the repercussions of that incident that day. And although you may not perhaps remember it right now, you will remember it tonight. And he does apologize if it does make you cry, but he says that sometimes we can touch people. Oh, I think this is to do with your non-spiritual job. We can touch people in ways that seem mundane or transactional or to do with paperwork and finance and things that other people would consider boring. But there was something that you did as a decision that if he had understood the implications and how he could have used that information to change and transform his world rather than reacting in rage and anger, then he wouldn't have needed to use that substance that night and things might have ended differently. So there's nothing for you to regret it's only just thank yous. And as he said, you have a connection that is not explainable in this here time, but you have repaid a kindness from another time, and he has repaid a kindness to you. So if you want to talk about karma, then fair's fair and fair's square, but never overlook, and this is a message for the listeners, never overlook the simple kindness that explaining procedures can have on people, but that also if people aren't ready to listen, then it doesn't matter how many times you can explain or how many copies of things you can give them, but the intention was there, and he thanks you, and good night.
Wow.
So I don't know what your other job is, but if it involves paperwork, then hopefully that will make sense eventually.
Where I'm thinking it is not where I think it is. Anyway, or who I think it is.
Yeah, so he was like trying to show me that he was like a customer or a client customer, or like I see an office, and like he said, it was an analogy would be, and it's not the right analogy, but an analogy would be, you know how like bank managers see a lot of customers in their daily lives, and they have so many forms that they've got to get them to fill out to open accounts or to do a credit card or whatever it is. And sometimes there can be a long queue, and you can be tired and you can be wanting to go and have your lunch break. And so the customer will come, you'll be like, here's your stuff, I've got to go. Does that make sense? And they're like, yes. And you won't know the impact that you've had on your life because it will be inconsequential to you. But so what he's come back a bit. He said what he wants to tell you is, okay, so the concept of soul families, you can, like I never knew Megan in my real life until I went on her podcast, Chasing Spirituality, and then she came on my podcast, and then we discovered a past life. So if you wanted to say my soul family was my family here that I was born into, you would say that she's not my soul family, right? Because she didn't come into physical contact with me. But sometimes we can have people that are an auntie or a teacher or even somebody in the street who's been sent to be in the background. And so what he's telling you is that he was just a peripheral character. And his decision meant that he exited faster than he should have, and that there was a potential for that person to have played a more move forward in the stadium, as he's showing me, move from the back row to the next rows in. And he doesn't want to elaborate what that could have been, but there was a potential for a greater interaction based on his actions, not yours. And so you did everything right in this lifetime based on what you'd agreed upon. And he made that choice to not be open and not to listen. And so he went down this pathway instead of that pathway. And the part of him that can see his human self says, bugger, I missed that opportunity because we didn't do that second layer of things that we could have done. And so I'm sorry for that, because that would have been fun.
Yeah.
But, oh, well, I guess we'll try next time. But thanks anyway. So you can see what I mean by, like, my mediumship is a bit different because you couldn't pinpoint who that is, but that person wants to remain anonymous. But they also, I could feel their sadness, but they wanted to specifically point out that they were in the light and that it wouldn't make sense to you. But at some stage when you're ready, in a dream, they will visit you and it will all make sense. So it is a past life connection, and that is important because our whole premise has been how we're connected in other lifetimes, and that's how I came to you through Megan. And so he's saying, don't be surprised if there's another connection that you should be thinking is bleeding obvious, that will come through. And he said that because my cat is sitting underneath the table very quietly. And with podcast episodes, Max comes in when there's somebody that he's known.
It's funny. It's funny you say that people. Because when you started, I felt it in my heart space, like I was going to cry, and then I just had peace. Like it all just went. And my dog, who's quite old, she's sitting behind me. She went and wandered around the room and sat right behind me, and is now back in her bed.
Over the past several days, 3 females have been found dead.
Looks like someone's going after these girls.
Then they have to know to watch their backs.
Streaming March 13th.
You really want what happened to this woman that happened to you?
Exactly why I need to keep going on this.
Starring Emmy Award winner Amanda Seyfried.
I'm worried about what you're gonna find. So am I.
Long Bright River, a limited series. Streaming March 13th, only on Peacock.
Yeah.
She hardly moves all day. She moved. So There you go.
Yeah. So, yeah, to be continued. Who knows?
They know, and there's more to this clearly.
But, yeah, animals know, and animals know. They know their energy, and they know, see, they also know, okay, there's energy coming in to mum's space. Do I need to be on guard, or can I sense this energy from my own heart, and do I need to help them? Because if they needed to help you, they would come close and physically touch you. And if they needed to be on guard, they might show you that there was something negative in the room. There was something worrisome, like my cat can see all the different kind of entities. But the fact that your dog went to sleep and my cat is under my feet asleep, and my cat is notorious for, jumping up onto the laptop and rubbing up against me, or even just leaving the room. But if there's something that there's beneficial connection, he will stay. So, yeah, and yeah, Max has come up in a lot of my clients' past lives as a former cat of theirs. So, yeah, particularly in Egyptian past lives.
Wow. It's just, so mind-blowing stuff. Now, Katish, I know we've been talking about your podcast, and you've done some writing as well. Do you want to tell us about those before we wrap it up? And if people want to connect and listen to the other work you're doing, where can they go?
Yeah, so just my website, which is katische.com. You'll find everything there. The current thing is poetry. I've just started to write poems just for fun. But they are, for me, a way of getting insights into other lifetimes. So it's a new way of doing it. It's a bit strange. It's a bit weird. It's a bit fun. So we'll see where that goes.
Nice. Well, I'm going to ask you the next question. I can't wait to see what this answer is. What's the change you'd like to see in the world, and how can we bring it to life?
The change that I'd like to see in the world is for people to move from fear and acting out of fear into love. And let me tell you, I struggle with it all the time. So what they tell me all the time is put one hand on your heart and one hand on your tummy. Mm-hmm. Just let the energy of your own hands calm you down. If you feel really bad still, ask for your guardian angel to come and give you a cuddle. I know it's really weird, but if I'm really stressed or afraid, I will ask my guardian angel to come lie next to me. And take a deep breath in. Listen to some music. So for me, it's like the cello or the shorty box. And just let the sound waves carry you, and know that on the other side of fear is excitement. And when we follow our excitement, our passion and our curiosity will lead to love.
Absolutely love that. Katish, my cheeks are still hurting from smiling with you. This has just been absolutely incredible, and I'm glad we finally made it happen after 2 years. Thank you so much for being a part of the Ethical Evolution.
Well, thank you, and good luck with your musical launch. Namaste.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Ethical Evolution podcast. If you're ready to be the change and would love to work with me on finding your voice through spiritual coaching or creating your own podcast with impact, visit ethicalchangeagency.com. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's growing every day with great content and highlights you may not have heard on the podcast. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or Apple, and why not leave a 5-star review? If you're not following me on social media, you can find me at Ethical Change Agency on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook and YouTube, and at DJ Bindi on TikTok and Instagram.
Ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Do you have a business or a message you want to share with the world?
Well, now it's easier than ever with Electrocast. Hi, I'm Mark Netter.
And I'm Peter Rafelson. We're the founders of Electrocast Media.
Whether you want to start a new podcast or already have one, join Electrocast to grow your audience, monetize your content, and build your community.
With our simple sign-up, you get free promotion, world-class analytics, premium ads, and personal support.
Go to electrocast.com and join our community today.
Electrocast. Transform your influence.
Electrocast. Hi, everyone. I'm Geraldine Glass, a leader in the field of music as medicine, and I'm excited to share with you my newest release of healing sound, Pentatonic Visions, with Chris Scholler and Electrocast Records. Immerse yourself in ethereal realms where the harmonies of nature, tribal rhythms, and soundscapes blend with the crystal singing bowls. It's out now, streaming on all platforms.
Electrocast.